So, the president of the Confederation of African Football CAF, Patrice Motsepe, has warned that Gianni Infantino can only be removed through election. And Yuri Telemo has apologized to Aston Villa fans after suggesting he had moved to a bigger club in Premier League rivals Manchester United ahead of the 2026-2027 campaign. And of course, the start of the Premier League may still be a week off, but in Europe the new season is already getting underway with La Liga kicking off the weekend and Ligue 1, Serie A and the Bundesliga soon to follow. There are plenty of storylines to look forward to this very season. On that note, I say welcome to Sports 360 right here on CEMTV Television. I'm Danny Mino, the voice you trust and that you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Locker, that homeboy that's never at home. I look around 247-365. I'm your host and guide. Okay guys, now let's get started as we look at some stories making the rounds on the international scene. Let's start off with this one concerning the president of Confederation of African Football CAF, Patrice Motsepe, was warned Gianni Infantino can only be removed through election. CAF is one of the federations in support of Infantino continuing as FIFA boss. UEFA, AFC and CONCACAF have accused the 56-year-old Infantino of deception following his failed plot to sell off stakes in the World Cup to investors. They've demanded for his resignation, insisting that he should not stand for re-election in March next year. But Motsepe, who is a FIFA vice president, has insisted that Infantino can only be taken out through due process. He said in his words, and I quote, "If anyone has got any problem against anybody, whether it's Infantino, whether it's anybody else, follow the process, follow the FIFA process, simple as that." Of course, Motsepe said so, speaking during an interview with Sky News. He added that if you want to take him out, go for elections. Let the 211 member associations decide. You've got to be very careful. There are elections taking place next year. Shouldn't we allow that process to continue? Well, yeah, ended with a question. Now, it's really interesting to have this coming up at this point in time. Of course, there have been numerous calls for Gianni Infantino to step aside as the president of the Federation of International Football Association, FIFA. Of course, on the backdrop of his intention to sell some stakes, the FIFA World Cup to some private investors. Of course, it met huge criticism and frowns, and we wait to see. Counting down, looking forward to the elections in 2027. March precisely, all right? So it sure would be an interesting one. And recall that US President Donald Trump just on some days back said FIFA, it'll be really wrong. It'll be so wrong to, not to re-elect or allow Infantino to continue as FIFA president. That it'll be a big mistake to let him leave. I wonder what that means. Well, we wait to see what happens at the end of it all. All right, now, so let's move on. A few stories you got making the rounds. This one has got to do with club football because Yuri Telemo is in the news. He's apologized to Aston Villa fans after suggesting he had moved to a bigger club in Premier League rivals Manchester United. The Belgian midfielder, who's 29, moved to Old Trafford this very summer on a 5-year deal from Aston Villa when United triggered a £35 million release clause on his contract. Telemo spent 3 years at Villa Park after joining from the Foxes, talking about Leicester City, and that was back in 2023, making about 134 appearances and scoring 10 goals during his time right there. Speaking during United's pre-season tour, Telemo praised Villa for putting him back to his best, before adding that, both their clubs above Villa and Manchester United is one of them. Some Villa fans were unhappy with Telemo's comments, so he took to Instagram to clear the air. He said, and I quote, "Never meant for my words in the press yesterday to offend anyone or the institution of Aston Villa Football Club, which I massively respect and I'm grateful for the past 3 years," he wrote. "Today, Thursday, Adding that, I must however admit my mistake and apologize for my choice of words. Of course, we'll be more careful in the future. Wishing the club the best in the future. The words of Yuri Telemo right there, after being greatly criticized for, saying United, he moved to a bigger club than Aston Villa, that's in Manchester United, ahead of the start of the 2026-2027 campaign. He was an integral part of that Villa side. All right, talking about Yuri Telemo, and had a great time at the side. Now at Manchester United, he's got, Michael Carrick as his new head coach or manager, if you like to say, in a matter of speaking, and he's looking forward to live right there at the Theatre of Dreams. That's Old Trafford, yeah, the home ground of Manchester United. Oh, well, remarkable. Of course, we saw him. He's been part of the United side in pre-season and really active, very active member of that very squad, and he's almost guaranteed a place in the starting X1 for the new season. Now, ahead of the new season, there are some talking points here. The start of the Premier League may still be a week off, but you know what? In Europe, the new season is already getting on that way. With La Liga kicking off this weekend and Liga, Serie A and Bundesliga soon to follow, there are plenty of storylines to look forward to this very season. Now, let's round up the best as we look ahead to what should be an enthralling campaign on the continent of Europe. They're looking at the top leagues here. Now we start off with the La Liga Santander, where the special one makes a return. I'm talking about Jose Mario dos Santos Felix Mourinho. Of course, the first La Liga match would be an encounter between Deportivo Alaves and Getafe, Saturday, August the 15th, 6:30 p.m. the time for that encounter. Of course, Jose Mourinho returning to Real Madrid 13 years after his first spell as manager ended of course, his return to the side where he had a good run, won the La Liga Santander, and we didn't quite see this coming sometime last season. Many expected Real Madrid to dominate La Liga and Champions League when they signed Kylian Mbappe back in 2024. And while he is impressed, the team as a whole has not really gelled. Last term, the Little Birds, Real Madrid, looked like two teams on the same pitch, a group of 4 superstar attackers and a fragile defensive unit left vulnerable to counterattacks. New signings Marco Correa, Ibrahima Konate, Denzel Dumfries and Bernardo Silva should help show things up, while Yan Diomande could provide even more excitement in the final third. Vinicius Jr. has also recently agreed a new deal after being linked with a move to the Gunners, talking about Arsenal. He signed a 6-year contract extension right there at the side. Some suggest a veteran Mourinho has had his day. He can manage the egos of Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr. after his previous time in charge right there at Estadio de Santiago Bernabeu, which ended following dressing room disquiet. And does a special one still possess the tactical acumen to seriously challenge FC Barcelona? Is one question on the lips of virtually everyone. All right, now Hansi Flick's side were not as formidable last season as in the 2024-2025, but a squad full of Spanish World Cup winners are still favourites to win a third consecutive league title going into the new season. Replacing the goals of Robert Lewandowski, will not be easy. But reinforcements have arrived in the shape of Anthony Gordon, who joined from Newcastle United. Karim Adeyemi joined from Borussia Dortmund as well. As usual, Atletico will look to muscle their way into the top 2, with the Yellow Submarines talking about Villarreal and Real Betis heading up the best of the rest right there going into the new La Liga season. After fighting their way up for the third tier, Malaga will look to avoid the drop with a budget, but the tight-knit squad, we got a really tight-knitted squad. They've been under judicial administration since 2020. Yeah, so that's a bit worrisome going into the new season. There'll be tears in Valencia as Los Che play their final campaign at the iconic Mestalla Stadium. Yeah, but who knows if UEFA Conference League runners-up Rayo Vallecano will be able to play any home games at all. The regional government of Madrid has stripped the club of its license to host matches at its rented Vallecas Stadium due to the dilapidated state of the facilities right there. Now let's move on to the Serie A, where, managerial music chairs are actually in Italy right now. And guess what? First Serie A match of the season will be again pitting Udinese and Como. And of course, Inter Milan versus Monza, Saturday, August the 22nd, 5:30 p.m., the time for that encounter. Now, Nerazzurri, Inter, are fancied to defend their Serie A crown. I bet partly because, few teams look equipped to challenge them. Napoli, that's the Partenope. AC Milan, that's Rossoneri, or call them Associazione Calcio Milan if you like. Atalanta Bergamo and Lazio all have new managers, while Bianconeri, call them old lady. I'm talking about Juventus. And of course, Milan are both under pressure after missing out on the top four that was last term. While the absence of Champions League football could aid their title bids, playing Thursday night football in the Europa League could hinder them. How Ruben Amorim gets on at San Siro will be particularly interesting for Manchester United fans for the most part. Napoli, whose two most recent title defenses have fallen disappointingly flat, will hope Massimiliano Allegri can rediscover his knack for winning right there in Italy. Como were the big story of last season, but can Cesc Fabregas' side replicate their league success while navigating, a debut campaign in the UEFA Champions League? Really interesting. They face a race against time to complete improvement at their idyllic lakeside stadium, if they are to host European games. Given the recent struggles of the Italian national team, Fabregas has pledged to try and bring through more young Italian players. So the question is, will others follow suit? Roma did well to finish third last season after a rocky start, and have backed manager Gianpiero Gasperini in the transfer market. Can they kick on and win a first Scudetto since 2001? It remains to be seen. Now let's move on to Germany, where we look at the Bundesliga. The question is, can anyone really stop the Bavarians? And that's Bayern Munich. First Bundesliga match will be again between Bayern Munich and VfB Stuttgart on Friday, August 28th, 7:30 p.m. the time for that encounter. The age-long question, as relevant as ever after Vincent Kompany's side cruised a domestic, double last term while playing some truly scintillating football. Harry Kane is 33 now, but is showing no signs of slowing down. The England captain has scored 98 goals in 94 Bundesliga games and has broken countless records since joining the side from Tottenham Hotspur. While questions may be asked of 40-year-old goalkeeper Manuel Neuer and his unconvincing backline, Bayern's devastating firepower of Harry Kane, Michael Olise and Luis Diaz, plus the addition of Morocco international Ismail Saibari, means they should easily outscore their opponents. The Westfalenstadion side, talking about Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen, are all capable of launching title challenges, but tend to come unstuck against stubborn mid-table sides. Elsewhere, fallen giants Schalke 04 are looking to re-establish themselves as a top-flight side after 3 years away. Their promotion heralds the return of one of the fiercest derbies in world football. Yeah, the Riviera Derby against Dortmund. I mean, it used to be talk of the world back then, but in recent time we've not really had that. Elversberg were playing in the regionalized fourth tier as recently as 2021-2022. But guess what? They secured promotion to the Bundesliga for the first time in their history to complete a fairy tale rise. With a population of about 13,000, Spiessen Elversberg, will be the smallest town to be represented in the Bundesliga. The odds are stacked against them for what it's worth. Now let's move on to France, where we look at the French Ligue 1. Paris Saint-Germain, of course, they look to continue the dynasty they've built in recent years. The first French Ligue 1 match will be an encounter pitting Olympique de Marseille and Strasbourg on Friday, August the 21st, 7:45 p.m. the time for that very encounter. Just so you know, it is hard to see anything other than Paris Saint-Germain winning Ligue 1 for a 13th time in 15 seasons. Real dominance, kind of like Idi Amin, especially off the back of back-to-back UEFA Champions League triumphs. So that said, Luis Enrique's side can be got at. Last term, they lost 6 league games, 2 more than in the previous 2 campaigns combined. Paris Saint-Germain have added attacking midfielder, talking about Magnus Akliush from AS Monaco, and Aston Villa left back Lucas Digne to their star-studded squad this very summer, but could end up selling wingers Bradley Barcola and Ibrahim Mbaye amid interest from Merseyside and that's Liverpool. Monaco back in 2016-2017 and Lille Metropole in 2020-2021 are the 2 most recent sides to topple the Parisians, but neither side looks equipped enough to do so again going into the new season. Financial difficulties have limited traditional heavyweights Olympique de Marseille in the transfer market, with more key players set to follow Mason Greenwood out of the club this very summer. That's Ozay and Liam Rosenio. Paris FC are back in the league. Real steel. He's the head coach of Ozay going into the new campaign. Liam Rosenio, former Chelsea interim boss, is in charge of Paris FC. They are back in the league after ill-fated managerial spells in England, while former Brazil fullback Filipe Luis has been installed as AS Monaco boss. Lens were Paris Saint-Germain's closest challengers last term, but may need time to bed in new manager Dino Topmüller. Lille, who finished third, faced a similar situation with David Ancelotti, the son of legendary Real Madrid, AC Milan, Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, former Milan player and legendary Italian manager. I'm talking about Carlo Ancelotti. David Ancelotti was assistant manager right there at Real Madrid during the reign of his dad as, the manager of the side. Strasbourg have been a team on the up in recent years. But after losing manager Rosenio and then Gary O'Neill to the Premier League, face another restart under the relatively inexperienced Hugo Oliveira. After losing the spine of the team that reached the UEFA Conference League semi-finals last season, the Alsace, have suffered some very heavy defeats in pre-season. So that's a story. Now, this new campaign promises to be really exciting. But then, what else to watch? What else to watch out for? Look, plenty of big names have joined Turkish clubs in recent years. But Mohamed Salah's signing for Trabzonspor came as a surprise. Yeah, his moving to Trabzonspor came as a huge surprise. So, after leaving Merseyside Liverpool at the end of his contract, Salah decided to join the 2021-2022 Super League champions rather than one of Turkey's big 3, with Galatasaray, Fenerbahce and Besiktas. He'll be remembered as, a hero if he can deliver a title at the first time of asking right there at Trabzonspor. In the Netherlands, PSV Eindhoven are looking to win a 4th successive Eredivisie title. Ajax Amsterdam and Feyenoord are looking to bounce back from disappointing campaigns, having since appointed new managers Spaniard No, Michel, that's Spaniard Michel, and that's at Ajax, and former Netherlands captain Giovanni van Bronckhorst in Rotterdam. So Porto are looking to successfully defend a Premier League title for the first times, for the first time, yes, since 2013. Yeah, a Primeira Liga title. Yeah, that's how to put it. Yeah, in Portuguese, Primeira Liga title for the first time since 2013, but will surely be challenged by classical rivals SL Benfica, now under the management of Marco Silva. Sporting CP are looking to reclaim the title after winning it in 2023-2024 and 2024-2025. So that's a story regarding what to expect going into the new campaign in Europe. Club football set to resume real soon, and we can't wait for that to really happen. Interestingly, we just can't go further. This is where we get to put a pin right here on Sports 360. Been a great time with you out there. Hey, best believe you are the real MVP. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. On YouTube at CEMTV Plus. Yeah, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, and Facebook at CEMTV Plus. Yeah, that's how you get through to us. Would keep you up to speed or bring you up to speed with some really interesting stories making the rounds. All right, I'm Danny Mino, the voice you trust and that mayor you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Locker. That's homeboy that's never at home. I look around 247-365. Who read? They serious, but now who pass? Nah, he no book. For now, adios.